To see a city that's usually always like quite buzzing and vibrant, and the streets would just be empty, and it's quite an eerie feeling. We've been closed since March last year, so it's quite a long time.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Although we've experienced lockdowns in Australia, everyday life has been relatively normal compared to countries abroad. Some have been in lockdown for months, and some restaurants globally have had their doors shut for over a year. With so many Australian hospitality professionals abroad, many have either had to wait until an opportunity arises to come home or had lots of downtime to consider their future. What impact is this having on the creative and busy minds of those that star in food landscapes all over the globe? Hanz Gueco is the head chef of Verjus in Paris. Hanz, how are you going?
Good. Thank you very much for having me.
It's good to catch up with you. What's it like there at the moment in Paris?
We're in, I don't know, this kind of limbo of waiting for vaccines and kind of the end of the tether of people's patience with lockdowns, and yeah, it's kind of a strange time, but it's nice. It's spring's coming, the sun's out, so can't complain on that side.
Well, in Australia we have random small sort of lockdowns that might last for a matter of days, but it's generally life as normal compared to what we're seeing overseas. What's the last year and a half been like in Paris? Give us an idea of what the lockdowns and the impact that it's had.
It's just been, to see a city that's usually always like quite buzzing and vibrant, and to just walk around. I remember the first couple of months last year where you would just walk around to go to the shops to go buy food or something, and the streets would just be empty, and you normally think of these places where it's just bustling, and it's quite an eerie feeling in the beginning.
You're the head chef at Verjus. What's been the impact of that restaurant in your role?
We've been closed since March last year, so
wow,
it's quite a long time.
Tell us about what impact that's had on you and what you've been doing in that time.
I often try to think of like the positives to it. Because what can you do? It's kind of like forced closures. So I've taken this year as kind of a sabbatical and tried to do interesting things or different things. I was always many years ago I read about this designer, Stefan Sagmeister, and he would his design firm would close once every 7 years to just pursue other things and then come back and just be guns blazing. And I always thought, oh wow, wouldn't that be cool? And it's very unfortunate, but luckily I've had this time to actually have that 1 year of just do whatever you want inside confined spaces.
What sort of impact has that had on your perceptions of what your career is and your cooking? Has it changed the way that you see your role as a chef?
Yes and no. I often speak to people and they've kind of, I don't know if you've got it from your podcast, but people rethink it and kind of mellow out. But I don't know, for me, it's the fire is still really burning for getting back into restaurants and doing what I love. I've enjoyed this last year for the most part, but I can't wait to get back.
Well, I think we should dissect what you're doing over there and have a look at Verjus and your impact a little bit later. But let's go back to the early days. You grew up in Blacktown in Sydney. What was food like in your family?
It was mostly Filipino food because I was born in the Philippines. We would have uh, Chinese food on the weekends. It's just basic kind of food like that. So, um, I'm cooking very, very different things right now. So it's. I wouldn't say I would have a deep connection to what I'm doing now to what I was doing when I was younger. So it's just very. I don't know if that's a very chefy kind of spiel.
Well, what led you to a career in hospitality?
I just when I was younger, I would just love and adore watching all the old cooking programs. I'm here in France, and I reckon a lot of it has to do with watching. Do you ever watch that Rick Stein where he takes that barge and he goes all across France on a canal and cooks different things, and you just fall in love with like, exploring the world, and this is like a great way to do it.
Well, your career has traversed the whole globe. In Australia, you worked at some pretty incredible restaurants. Tell us about the really pivotal moments and the chefs that you worked with and what impact they had on you in Australia.
Right. Well, I started my career at Mark. That was where I started my apprenticeship. Um, I would often think that that was the most important place that I probably worked at. I often say it's the restaurant that most enriched and ruined my life at the same time. Because you learn so much and you have a completely different outlook on food, but at the same time, it's like a very taxing kind of way of thinking about it, of approaching it.
There's been some incredible alumni come out of that restaurant, and it was obviously run by Mark Best, and Pasi Patanen was there as well. What sort of impact did both of those chefs have on you?
Oh, immense. I mean, I ended up becoming Pasi's sous chef when he opened up Cafe Pasi. Um, those two people, they're so they're so demanding of like they always want more from you, and I think that's why so many people have come out of it and done well, because I think they just I don't know. I often think that they instilled like a healthy or unhealthy amount of doubt, so that you're always trying to become better.
What sort of impact did that have on your cooking, do you think?
Like I think you always, if you work somewhere like there, you always want to be more creative or try to think of a way to do what everyone else